The name of the show is The Way to Go. My name is Max Bendich. I'm going to be your host. And tonight we have a very special guest. He's someone I've known all my life. He's a father, a grandfather, and a great-grandfather. And he's my father. And it's Max Bendich is our guest. Welcome to the show, Pop.
Thank you, Alan.
Okay.
How are you?
Excellent.
Wonderful.
So I think what we're going to do tonight is really talk about your life.
Right.
How it started, all the twists and turns, and how it's going. So to start, like, where were you brought up?
All right. We could start from the beginning.
Okay, we can start from the beginning.
From when my parents, your great-grandparents, my parents came from a small town in Russia.
Yeah.
I forget.
Nova Konstantinov.
Nova Konstantinov.
Right.
And it was either that my father would go into the army,
right,
or that he would or he's been able to get a ticket and come to America.
How do you get a ticket? I mean,
you go to it's in Yiddish a ship's card, meaning a ship's. They all had to have.
Was it like a passport? Or
not a passport. The passport you have,
right.
But in other words, you have to have the money to buy a ticket to go on on the ship.
Right.
And usually.
So how do you get the money?
Usually you haven't got the money. The relatives
yes.
buy the ticket,
right.
And you get that ticket. Usually
right.
The relatives will get you a ticket.
Was your father one of the first? Because how many brothers? He had brothers and sisters.
Right.
Was he one of the first to come from Russia to the United States? Or?
No, he had a brother and a sister.
Right.
The brother came first, and he came in to the Lower East Side.
Right.
And when there was time for when the other people came, the other immigrants came.
Right.
So this is what how it happened. The people who were there moved away from the East Side,
right.
And they took over.
So
and
the East Side
was
like the stopping. They'd stop in the Lower East Side, and then they'd move away from there, and the new immigrants would come in.
For the new, and this happened almost regularly,
right.
Because the boats would be coming in not only for the Jewish people, for the Russians,
right.
The Italians would come in, but for the Jews.
Right, and this was they came through Ellis Island.
They came to Ellis Island,
right.
Or there was another place, Castle Garden. I don't know what that. This is. In other words,
that was another gateway for people to come in.
Another gateway to come in.
Okay,
a lot of them came to Castle Garden.
Okay, so it's Pop. So they came in, and what year did they come in around?
No, they must have come in about 1913.
Right.
Because I was born in 1915.
Right.
So, but by the time I was born, already, my uncle, my father's brother,
right.
had a place in. We were laundry people.
Right.
Not we were, but my parents were laundry.
Oh, your
people.
father was an ironing, shirt ironer.
My father was a shirt ironer.
Right.
My mother was only a housewife.
Only a housewife.
You know the expression. And they moved. They stood in Ellis Island.
Right.
They stood on the East Side for a short time.
Right.
And then my father's brother, who had an apartment,
right.
got us an apartment in Manhattan.
Right.
He had moved to Harlem.
Right.
At that time,
yeah.
Believe it or not, Harlem was a Jewish neighborhood from 110th Street to 125th Street. It was a stopping way for those eventually to go further.
Right.
They would go to Brooklyn or they would go to Queens.
Okay. So you lived there only for a short period of time?
A very short period of time.
And where'd you go next?
To what is called the Wilderness. the Bronx.
Really?
The Bronx was actually, in other words, if you see the map of Manhattan, it's going like this, and then up and away is the Bronx.
Right.
It's
Right,
the Bronx. The Bronx. And the further away from Manhattan you went, it was like going into the country.
So what was it? Okay, so you moved. Where did you move again?
We moved
What
to,
part? What was the block?
It's called, nowadays it's called the South Bronx,
Right.
on 136th Street.
Right.
We moved in from to 136th Street, and the number of the house was 528.
Right.
And we lived there until, I finished public school.
Uh-huh.
And in 528, we settled, and the block was actually divided into three. We found that out later.
Okay.
The beginning of the block, we lived between Brook Avenue and St. Anne's Avenue
Right.
on 136th Street, 528.
Right.
About 2 houses after us was a third, meaning from a third of the block from Brook Avenue to about 536, or whatever
Right.
it would be.
Right.
The next third of the block were the Polish people, the
So you're saying
Russian.
that the Jewish people lived in one in
In one
the
part,
first
that's
part,
right. The first
and the
part,
second part
there
was
a variety, a mixture of people.
Right.
And the third part, the Irish.
right.
Now, believe it or not, we were friends. But every now and then the Irish kids would come over and beat us up. They would beat us,
Right.
and not hard. We saw them in school.
Well, I think we're going a little bit too much
I
ahead
mean-
of it now. So you moved over there. Who moved over there? Was it just you, or because you had two brothers, right?
My two brothers weren't.
They weren't born yet.
Wait, 1915, 1917. My two brothers
Probably
were
were
born
just
about the
born.
same time.
As you moved.
Now, just imagine this.
Right.
She's a
You
young.
had two twin. Your
wait,
brothers were twins.
That's what I wanted to tell you.
Okay.
Here you see a lady, a young lady,
Yeah.
with already a kid about 2 years old or 3.
Yeah.
And the next time she has 2 more children,
Right.
twins.
Right.
So she took I think my mother took some sort of a beating
Right.
when she had 3 children, still young,
Right.
and she never worked. She always took care of the children. She took care of the house.
Well, we can get into some things that she actually also took care of, which was because your father was at the time, wasn't he like a labor?
Oh, wait, my father was a shirt ironer who worked in a laundry.
Right.
In any laundry.
Yeah.
Now, when you're a shirt ironer, you could actually make up to a certain level and never make any more. Never.
Right.
What is a shirt ironer? A shirt ironer, they didn't have the irons as you see now, the steam irons, and
Right.
they have an iron that weighs almost 10 pounds,
Right.
and it has to be hot.
Right.
So what have they got underneath them? A flame going all the time.
Right.
And it isn't one iron, you have to have 2.
Right. Because one gets cold. The other,
No, they're not cold, cool, it never gets.
Right.
Now, what else? You have to have a certain kind of a glove, Alan.
Yeah.
Just imagine with metal on the glove,
Yeah.
and you have to grab that glove. But when do you do it? When it's ready to be changed, they have a stick, a thick piece of stick,
Right.
goes under the handle.
Right.
They turn it upside down,
Right.
and they put it in the water, and water, and you,
Right.
and the water.
It's like steam.
In other words,
Yeah.
it makes it enough warmth enough.
Hot enough to do it, but a little bit cooler, not to burn
hold
it,
it.
and also not to burn.
That's a shirt ironer.
Right.
And with that type of work,
Right.
and it's work. I mean, that's all right. Any kind
the
of work
labor,
is
right.
And he was a good one. He was a good shirt ironer. I mean, there were some people who just did it phony, and believe it or not, he used to get about a nickel or even more on a shirt
Yeah.
than most
And
of the.
a nickel was a lot of money back in those days, right? Right?
A
A nickel ain't what it used to
right.
be, that's for sure.
And also, now remember, we're talking about my father.
Right.
How much could he do?
Yeah.
He did as much as he can until the days over. He wouldn't be able to do that much more.
Right.
And meaning, when he got a maximum of money, whatever
Right.
the amount was, every week he would have that type of money. he can never see getting some sort of an advance.
Now Zadie, my Zadie,
Yeah.
right? This is Zadie Louis. Wasn't he also a labor activist?
Now, now at that time,
Yes.
at that time, there was anti-union. There was a strong anti-union feeling among people. I don't understand why. Wait, everybody was a worker in my mind. Now, so these people would go around and try to make the workers union people.
Right.
My father had a brother.
Yeah.
He had two brothers. And my father had a brother who a little powerful than him also.
A Starker.
A Starker.
A Starker.
That's right. Don't live. That's Starker.
I know.
Right? And he also was a shirt ironer.
Right.
But they realized that when all the shirt ironers could get together, at that time there was like the Dubinsky was
Whatever.
and there were certain people who were the heads of the unions,
Right.
and they were starting to make a union.
Right.
Now, how do you make a union of shirt ironers? My father was, believe it or not, there was a time when, let me go back a little.
Okay.
The time when the Jewish people came in, even before that, they had nothing, they couldn't find work. What did they do? They became gangsters.
Right.
Oh, if you could read about the gangsters in New York at that time were Jews, not Italians, and so why? They made money. They used to take the beer or the whiskey away from one people, and so my father would go into a laundry, and they knew my father and the owner, and they knew when did they do it? After work or something.
Do what? The union?
To go into and to speak to the workers.
Right. Okay.
We're forming a union.
And which union was that?
I don't remember.
Well,
it must be
the first one before the
United Way.
Okay. Okay. But anyway, so but when did he join Workman's Circle?
He joined. I still have the year.
When did he join? About. In the 20s, right?
In the teens.
Right.
When they came 1913, almost immediately.
Right.
His brother made him join the Workman's Circle. Well, now, the Workman's Circle was an insurance.
Right. It was a fraternal organization.
That's right.
Right.
And they took care of everything.
Right.
Insurance, death.
Right.
They had plots for the people.
Right.
And automatically the Jewish people would do that at that time.
Right.
But now we're talking about to get the union together.
Right.
Usually they knew him, and they knew there was going to be trouble with my uncle and my brother.
Right. But I mean, basically, so your father was a member, was an active union member, right? And your mother, what did she do for the union?
For the union?
Yes, I thought didn't she go and work, bring food to the strikers and things like this?
Well, that's later.
Right.
But in the beginning, no, she had young children, remember, at that time, 3 children to take care of.
Right.
She had my father to take care of, and then she had to take care of herself.
Right.
So, and she was successful in Alan.
Right.
She was successful in everything.
So let's talk about. I want to talk about your brothers for a little while. Okay.
All right.
Now, you had 2 brothers. One of them was ultimately. Well, you had Uncle Joe and Uncle Aaron.
That's right.
And I guess they were 2 years younger than you.
2 years younger.
And in those days, 2 years was like a big difference. I mean, like you had your friends, and Uncle Joe and Uncle Aaron had totally different friends, right?
We were brothers.
Yes.
We weren't so-called friends.
Right.
Well, because of those 2 years meant about 1,000,000 years.
Now, how did you guys interact? I heard stories about how they tied you up once and beat the crap out of you on a tree.
None of me. What are you talking? And jokingly, you know, they didn't hit me hard.
Right.
And I would, every now and then, my mother would hear scream, "Ma, they're beating me, they're beating me up again."
Okay.
But it was in a loving way.
Right.
We did that. We didn't do it.
Okay. I got to ask you, when did the IWO pop up?
No, the IWO which means the International Workers' Order.
That's right.
Became, I think, I wouldn't know the word.
It was established, I think.
No, it was the exact opposite and politically
of the workman's
as a
circle.
workman's circle.
Right.
And my father would come home all the time
Right.
with a paper in his pocket, the forward.
Right.
You know, when I was a child, my parents, and they didn't even have the money, believe me, we'd get a rabbi.
Right.
This happened only to me. And then he'd walk up 4 flights,
Right.
and he would teach me the Aleph Beis.
Right.
The Aleph Beis, the ABC.
Right.
And I would be in one room.
Right.
My mother would be in the back, sometimes being happy because I'm saying what the rabbi wanted.
Right.
But sometimes they would say, Kuma Salafo. That means the sounding of the A. And I would say, Kuma Salafa. Kuma Salafa. He had that rule of the miserable
That's
guy.
right. The other
and
thing,
he beat me up.
Okay,
Boom!
talking about beating up. You also, there's a word, the konchik. I mean, there was corporal punishment that parents took. But I just want to just move it along a little bit.
Move it along.
So your parents both your parents joined the IWO?
That's right. So it was automatically, actually.
Right. Well, so it was like, the IWO was a pretty progressive organization, right?
That's right. It actually became almost a leftist.
Right, it was a leftist organization. And they created a camp, right?
Wait, that was a little later.
I know.
Believe it or not,
Yes.
I was almost part of that.
Right.
In the summertime, what do we do? Most of the time in the summertime, all of us go down to Coney Island.
Right.
Coney Island, until one day, because of the IWO, we found out that the camp, about 16 miles from now, it was called Camp Kindleland or Lakeland,
Right.
was being built.
Right.
And I was a teenager at that time, and I was part of the organization or something.
Right.
In the summertime, for about 2 weeks, I would go up there, and we helped build this IWO. It became a camp, a progressive camp. And actually, at the end, believe it or not, it was called a communist camp.
Right. Now, you'd have people like Pete Seeger coming over and Paul Robeson and other people coming to the camp, right?
Not only to the camp, and playing for us, and helping the kids get along.
And this was before World War II?
Definitely before. Before this. Was this before?
I think so. I think the camp was built before World War II.
Or just say it.
No, it had to be because you weren't married yet.
Yes.
Right? So anyway, let's go back to Uncle Joe and they were twins, right?
Joseph and Aaron.
Right. Now, one of them, Uncle Aaron, was like an internationally known scientist working at Sloan Kettering Institute. He was one of the original members of the Sloan Kettering Institute. He was the chairman of the biochemistry department at Cornell Medical School, and a lot of things. And his twin brother Joe was
a machinist.
He was a machinist,
and he was a very good machinist.
He was excellent. He was a master machinist.
But he lost a part of a finger.
I know, his thumb.
And because he lost a part of a finger, he wasn't called into the army.
Right.
Aaron, because he became one of the great scientists of the world, he traveled all over, and he worked. Later on, I even found out he worked for DuPont with making.
Yeah, but he was on President Kennedy's commissions and some other things.
Whatever he did, he was a great man.
Right.
He also didn't go into the army
for other reasons.
So
who went to the army?
Their brother, me.
Well, what happened before? But before you went to the army, something happened. You met a woman. I guess as you were getting older.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right.
Let's talk about mommy.
All right. Something. Wait. First, we moved. I was 12 years old. Oh wait. We never knew girls.
Right.
We never knew girls, or we knew the girls from school. Yeah. But if any fellow, the girls were on one side of the street, we were on the other side of the street. And if ever a fellow would talk to a girl, he was called a sissy. He was after public school.
Yeah.
From Brook Avenue to St. Anne's. We still lived on 136th Street from St. Anne's to Cypress Avenue.
Right.
And on Cypress and became a new world for me.
Right.
I met boys who lived with your girls. I mean, they were there all the time, fooling around with them, dancing with them, and I joined them eventually. I liked loved those kids.
Yeah.
Why? Because it became a new life for me.
Right.
And we went out. We took pictures together.
And this is in the late 30s, right? You were probably in your 20s.
It has to be,
right,
because remember, I was married in 1941.
Well, we're not there yet.
I know it, but about these girls, I'm going to tell you about these girls.
Right.
We realized something. They were our age,
Right.
and they were becoming ready to get married.
Oh, yeah.
They had to be. We couldn't marry them. We had no money,
Right.
and we were working.
Everyone was poor back then, right? Yeah, we left that. We forgot the Depression, but we'll go back there.
Now that, by luck,
Yeah.
Alan, I got a job.
Yeah.
I got a job from one of those fellows, one of my friends,
Right.
and a job for Jerris. Now, what's a Jerris? Jerris was a big company making powder, making paper for barbers.
Right.
And I got in a job, and I liked it. I liked what I was doing.
Yeah.
I had time for myself. And little by little, Alan, I became like a foreman, a kid,
Right.
a kid. But in the meanwhile,
Right.
I was getting a raise.
Right.
I was getting another raise. I was getting another raise.
Uh-huh.
When it ended up, I was making I had 8 people working under me. And they loved me, the Italian. The boss loved me. What did I do? I even found something. Look, if you do it this way, you're going to save money. If you do it, he relied on me.
Yeah.
I made almost as much as my father.
Right.
And because of that, we had in our house, we had a little better living
Yeah.
than other people.
Right.
Oh, let me say one other thing.
Okay.
Not only in our house, in most of the houses, we were poor,
Yeah.
and we didn't know we were poor.
Good. Okay. So you were so you had these new friends, and what happened? You opened up a little
Wait.
club?
I had interrupted myself. So we decided, look, we like to dance and everything.
Yeah.
We can't be with it. Let's find a new place to dance.
Right.
So somebody said, we heard of a place called 8 Burnside Avenue.
Right.
What's 8? There's lofts. And you get a room about as
Right.
big as this,
Right.
and you get furniture. You put it in, and there were about 10 of them.
Right.
Girls would come up. Believe it or not, girls would come up. Teenage girls would come up, and we would be dancing with them. New people. It was Alan. It was good.
So what happened? Anything special happened?
Now, I knew only 2 kinds of music, folk songs and classical
Right.
music. So I had my records, and I would bring them in there, and I fighting with my friends.
Right.
What are you showing? Look, I said, listen to Paul Robeson singing this song. Listen to this.
Right.
And the other guys, we need dance music.
Right.
And one day, while I'm listening to this music, and the girls came in,
Right.
2 girls come in.
Right.
They look at it and everything else, and they liked that. One of the girls liked the folk music.
Was it Ballad for Americans?
The Ballad for Americans.
Go on.
Okay,
go.
It was Paul Robeson singing the Ballad for Americans.
Right.
And we were about to turn it off.
Yes.
So the little one
Right.
says, leave it on. That's what we're doing. We're listening.
Right.
So they listened to it, and then they went to another place.
Right.
And finally, it came time for dancing.
Right.
And the music came on. Girls would come in, and girls would go out.
Right.
And I would holler, not holler, I would tell the children, my friends,
Right.
dance with everybody. Oh, those girls are not good looking. Some of them are fat. Some of them are skinny. You want them, they said to me, dance with them.
Right.
I'm a good dancer. All right. I made sure that at least when they came in, Alan, when they came in, I danced with them.
Right.
They had to dance.
Okay.
And one day, 2 girls come in.
Right.
And again, I danced with my brother,
Right.
and my friend danced with the other one. What we said to each other, I don't know,
Right.
but it's incredible.
Right.
And after 2 dances, said so long to them, and they went out, maybe never to see each other,
Right.
or maybe, and believe it or not,
Yeah.
one of those girls became my wife.
Okay.
Wait a minute. So 2 or 3 weeks later, they came back again.
Right.
Usually they come back again.
Right.
And my friend says when I was dancing with her at that time, I never danced with another girl.
Well, that's a nice story. That's a very nice story, Pop.
No, and that's why I believe.
One really quick question I have for
Yes.
you. From that point on, how long did you go out with Mom before you went?
All right.
Before you got married?
All right.
And that's
Before I got married, maybe a year or a little longer than a year.
okay. And
Now, let me say, and she said this way, I want to get married when I'm 21.
okay. So you started dating Mom when she was 20 years old.
When she's 20 years old.
Okay. That's
right.
this is something that's interesting for me.
Right.
Okay. And were you the first of your siblings to get married?
Aaron.
Aaron got married.
Aaron got married, and because Aaron got married, he used to give money, so he had his money for himself and for his wife.
Right.
But he helped out my parents
Right.
a lot. I became the person to help out my parents.
I know.
And because I was making a lot of
Right.
most of the money went, and we lived pretty well, Alan. We lived
Right.
pretty well, but with Dorothy,
Yeah.
with my wife, she said, "I want to get married when I'm 21."
Right.
All right, she was married in November 17th.
Right. But okay.
Wait, she never.
No,
so-
she was.
Yes, November 17th.
No, November. Right. November. She was
No,
married.
the day, November 17th,
No, that was her birthday.
a birthday.
I thought you said she's-
no, excuse me, her birthday, November 17th.
Right.
And
1941.
3 days later,
Right. And guess what?
3 days later, we were married.
I know. And you know what? We're going to have to continue this a little bit later. And
And all right,
So, no, at
it's
this
a good
point-
time to end it, right?
Right.
Because we're going to start off next time
right.
with a surprise.
Right. So I'd like to thank you for being such a
Alan.
great guest. And and that's a wrap.